So after finally getting caught up on all my first impressions for the winter 2021 season, I'm finally getting back to continuing my journey down Wandering Egg Priority as they've released episode 3 and episode 4. So I finally got caught up on those two, and I'm looking to do, hopefully, if my schedule fits everything, an episode by episode analysis of Wonder Egg Priority, because I'm super excited for the series, and I've been completely engrossed into it at this point. So hopefully, if you guys enjoy these episode by episode analysis, I'll continue doing them. Hopefully, I'll get some other shows in that routine as well. But yeah, for episode 3 of Wandering Egg Priority, we finally kind of jumped into Rika, who is essentially the third girl that they have decided to kind of introduce that is doing this. I guess we'll call it this Wandering Egg Priority. In this particular case with Rika, we were essentially, she's trying to save a, as she call it, wallet. A girl that was a fan of hers when she was an idol, one of her few fans, one that was using pretty much all of her money to recycle the line and buy multiple handshakes and everything for her as an idol, just to support her in any way she could. And she was a chunky girl. And at some point, Rika reveals that she found out that this fan was shoplifting. And she got really nasty to this fan and basically said that she's fat and she's ugly and she doesn't want to be seen with her. And to the point, of course, as happened with which has happened to all these cases of these girls that are kind of caught in this issue, is she committed suicide. And what kind of follows that is I really do like what kind of, I guess, rhythm or pattern that I'm seeing with Oto, who is the main girl, in that she is able to kind of, even though she was technically shutting in, not communicating with people, not going to school, she seems to have an ability to kind of draw things out of people. And with Rika specifically, she kept with Rika even though Neru was telling to, ignore this girl. She's bad. She's bad news. She's mean. She's using you for money. She shouldn't be trusted. Still sticks with her to the point where eventually, through a series of events, Rika eventually kind of reveals that things aren't what they seem. Kind of puts it perfectly to Neru in the idea that Rika she's one of those people that expresses one thing, but her truth is different. Her outer appearance and what she says and what she looks like isn't exactly what is underneath. And I really did like that. I thought that was a really fantastic story that they told with Rika and her fan that ended up passing away. It's obviously Rika regrets what she did. This is something that is on her mind, enough that she is doing what she's doing. Even though she jokes that she's doing it to get her wallet back, that's not really the case, obviously. The reason that she's doing it is because she obviously screwed up. She hurt this person to the point that they ended their life, and now she's trying to undo it. So I'm already just fully on board with Rika and her story, like the same I was with and her story, having essentially two situations, one being where bullies pushed this girl to suicide, and in this other case where she is the bully and she did push this person to suicide. So really fantastic introduction to Rika. I'm already loving her as a character just because it's not obviously first appearances that, man, she's really mean. She's basically using as an ATM here, and there's nothing that she's adding except for, some kind of inner conflict to the rest of the team that we're kind of assembling here. At the same time, in the 4th episode, we got introduced to Momoe, who is essentially a tomboy. She seems very masculine, more like a very feminine boy than a girl. And it seems like her focus was mainly on victims that were on trains, because it seemed like the maybe three scenarios that technically 3 scenarios that we had of her cracking these eggs in a dream state and saving somebody was on a train. And it didn't seem like we didn't know at first exactly why she was using the train. And it wasn't until we found out later that the person that she is trying to save appears to have jumped into the front of a train, because where her statue is stepping off a platform at a train station. Whereas, like with I Oto, her friend Koito Nagasai, she is a statue stepping off of a building. Oddly enough, now that I think about it, Rika's wallet, her fan, is out in the middle of a flowery field. So I'm not sure if she went to a flowery field and then did something, cut herself or something like that, and bled out. But I'm curious as to what exactly. I might have to go back and recheck that, because it seems like everybody's always in a location. Like the gymnast that I helped, she was in her bed when she was a statue. It showed a statue inside of in a room on a bed when they were mentioning the idea this was the person you saved will probably be a statue in somebody else's dream. Insinuating that the person you saved is a tragedy of somebody else's. And, so that's, anyways, in somebody else's dream. But, Momoe was always focused on trains, which, again, we found out eventually that's because it seems like she's going out of her way to look for girls on trains. Maybe she's looking for specifically her friend that she's trying to save, and so that's why she keeps going to the train to do it. But hers was the first one that she saved was a girl that was being molested, and she essentially spoke up. Ended up finding out the person that was molesting her was somebody high up in the place that her father works, and that her mother blamed her, said that the only reason they was doing it is because she was cute and she should have bared with it. And so obviously that's really screwed up at that point and led to her committing suicide. Then they had another girl, which they didn't really get into what exactly her thing was, but she was also attracted to Momoe. And of course, the repeated kind of idea here with each one they're showing is that they're all attracted to Momoe, thinking that she is a boy. And eventually, when Momoe meets Rika and Neru, they all continue to mistaken her as a boy. And I really didn't think anything of it. I was assuming it was just going to be here's a tomboy character. Obviously, they think that she's not what she is. And I didn't really think anything of it until at some point they really started hitting on her backstory with the girl that was in love with her, which is the person she's trying to save. And that this idea of her being masculine was bothering her. They even had one of the bully that was from the molester. That bully was essentially, and I'm calling them bullies because I'm giving them a different name because it's easier to understand, to remember. The bad guys that they're defeating in the dream world are the bully, and the victim is the bullied. Anyways, but it wasn't until she left the garden, left Neru, left Rika, went out into and seen her reflection, and it started to bother her. It was showing that it was bothering her, and then I showed up. The sunflower that they were mentioning to Momo, one of them was a sunflower. She has a sunflower on her sweatshirt. She shows up and she's like, "What do I look like?" And I was like, "A cute girl that's crying," and it just completely broke her. And I'm like, man, they are really hitting on that. This is something of hers that is bothering her, that she is seen this way. And I'm really curious as to if it's going to go any further direction from this point, because it really did seem like, but wasn't that what you were going for? Or is she obviously maybe having an identity crisis? Like, she wants to be one thing, but she keeps being this other thing. Is she trying to find what she wants to be? And I'm curious if they'll hit on that anymore after this point. But obviously, seeing her for what she wanted to be seen as was impactful for her. And I thought it was a beautiful scene, absolutely beautiful scene. And that's what the series keeps doing. It just keeps having these absolutely beautiful scenes that just hit. There's like the scene with Rika feeling the warmth of the girl that she caused to kill herself. The scene with Rika's at the funeral of her fan and how she said she was incredibly skinny and it wasn't her. And it was almost like she made fun of this girl for being fat, which drove her to suicide. And that's what it was. She had technically had starved herself to death, so maybe she just willed away in a forest or in a field. I'm not sure exactly why the placement is there, unless she moved her. But anyways, her being skinny and decrepit and dying that way, she didn't recognize her, and she's like, this isn't her. And yeah, it's kind of it's these scenes that just are haunting but beautiful at the same time. The scene with I and Momo when they first met, the scene with Momo and at where her friend's statue is, and that shot. All these shots are just hauntingly awesome. The other cool thing they kind of revealed in these particular episodes, I think it should have been episode 4, because that was the episode that Momoe, Rika, and Neru were at the garden. It was interesting because they Rika and Neru basically point out, wait, I thought only girls did this. Why is there a boy here? Obviously talking about Momoe. And they're like, yes, this is only for girls. They themselves were basically saying, yeah, that's not a boy. But what they pointed out in this particular scene through this conversation, so that triggered another kind of reveal, was the fact that they specifically separate the suicide of men and women. They claim that the men, that decision is goal oriented, whereas with women it is emotion oriented. So the men they go at it as a goal, whereas women it's more fragile. It happens quickly. It's emotional driven, something that can be triggered very quickly. Whereas the men they kind of had that as a goal and they went for it. So it's insinuating that with men it typically takes a little bit more time. I guess the best way that I thought about it is it's less knee jerk. Like with men, they have more time to rethink it. It is something they've calculated and gone for. Whereas with women, it's often more knee jerk. It happens more quickly. It's something that can be driven to very rapidly with less time to think about it. And I thought that was kind of interesting. They specified that it's very impulsive and that it can be easily influenced by voices. So specifically bullying, people driving them to something. With Rika, just that one person you love so much telling you you're fat, I don't want to be seen with you, go away, when you've basically given your life to this person that you have idolized. With the case of with Koito, it's this entire bullying situation that was happening with her and it's just something that other people create and push them to that is more impulsive. And granted, I don't personally believe that to be true. Don't get me wrong. I don't want this to be about a thing where I believe that men's suicide is different than women's suicide in the way that men is, I guess, less emotional. Because I do believe they both share a lot of aspects. So don't get me wrong again. But in the way that this story is being told, that is the direction that they are going, and it does make sense to the story that they're telling. So, again, I don't fully agree with it, but this is what they're doing. So just let's stick with that. So, yeah. They're saying that temptation of death, led astray by temptations, and they also regret it. And that's what this whole system is created for. And so this does technically drive back my theories of there being a very Madoka story here, and we're having some manipulation happening with the girls. The constant noting of the fact that the statues themselves are getting warmer, or that they're warm. The fact that this is something they are specifically saying this is to fix regret of this choice being made that was technically influenced by others that should be undone. They're specifically targeting these girls that have been driven to a regretful decision. And with that, it does technically give me a little more pause to questioning Akka and Uraka, but I'm still gonna hold my thought on that, and I'm still gonna question them until I get the full story and the series completes. But that was a really cool reveal, and I was really intrigued by that. I had to double take it once the scene was happening. I'm like, whoa, we're getting some backstory stuff here. We're getting into some deets of exactly what is going on in this particular world, and I cannot wait to hear more about it. Now that the entire, I guess technically the team that's in the key art is all together, we could get more people. Now that entire team is together, I'm excited to see what happens going forward. All the characters are fantastic. I think technically the only character we have still left to get into the background of is Neru. Of course, she seems to be revealed as being a president of a big corporation, which I'm sure we'll find out exactly what that means eventually. Maybe her being the president of that organization is the reason that her sister's dead. It's a really a theory that's in the back of my head at the moment. But like I said, we've gotten the deets on pretty much every character at this point, even characters that just showed up, but we still have not really gotten into Neru, and I'm curious if that will be the next thing we get into, or if we're going to start seeing these people as a team really kind of getting in there together to work on these eggs and save these girls. So yeah, more heartbreaking stories of tragically ended girls that they're saving, more tragic backstories, stuff that just breaks your heart, but that is exactly what is really driving the emotion and the intrigue of this particular story, and I'm excited to see the next episode. So again, if you guys enjoyed this little kind of episode by episode breakdown, if this is interesting to you guys, my thoughts and maybe a quick idea of what I've seen in the episode, let me know if you guys enjoy these, and I will keep releasing them as they release each episode. But I hope you guys enjoyed. And again, as usual, if you like this video, please subscribe, hit a like, and leave a comment. And I hope you all enjoyed, and you all take care.